Hello! So today we're doing a July wrap-up. We're talking about all the books that I read in the month of July. If you don't already know, I have a review channel where I do weekly reading vlogs, giving spoiler-free reviews for each of the books that I read, as well as spoiler-filled discussions on my favorite stories that I read. So that's all over there. If you want to check it out, I will give brief descriptions for each of these and brief reviews and what I thought of them. But if there's anything that you're more interested in hearing about, you can always check the description of this video. There's a spreadsheet that keeps track of everything that I read, and on that spreadsheet there's also links to every video attached to each book so you can easily find more information on anything. So here we do tier lists here, apparently. That's our thing. So here's this month's tier list. New favorite. This is beyond I loved it. This is Hallmark book. We have Chef's Kiss, something that was just extraordinary. It was perfect. We have something that was great. Sure, it was good. And then the bottom tier is Poo on You, which I don't think I had any like negative reviews this month. I don't think I had anything that I was just like, you suck, I don't like you, which is good. I like it when that is not how I feel about stories I read. So going in the order in which I read things, the first book that I finished this month was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is the third Brandon Sanderson Secret Project book, the 4 books that he wrote in his spare time for fun, generally as gifts to other people. This is the second book that was a gift to Emily, his wife. And this was largely inspired by Your Name, which I'm actually going to start reading really soon. But this is a manga series. It's been adapted into an anime. I think he watched the anime and it just inspired a lot in him, and it definitely feels like that. It feels like an anime in a lot of ways. It has a lot of the tropes and a lot of the things. So know that going in, because that's been a big turnoff for some people. Anyway, this is dual perspective. We follow 2 characters, Yumi and Painter, and they're in separate worlds. Yumi's is this historic world, very based on traditions and structures, and this is the way of things. And then Painter's is a world of night where living nightmares come, and his job is to kind of push them back with his art. And this is a very art-centric story, and it's beautiful and it's fun, and I really enjoyed it. I want to call this a chef's kiss. It was more than just great for me. It wasn't a new favorite, but it was definitely just like, it hit the spot for me in so many ways. This does have a spoiler dedicated video on the review channel. Next up is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. So this is a YA thriller, and I enjoyed so much about this book, and then there were other things that just really didn't work for me. So the premise and the setting and so many things about this I loved. Okay, so this follows a young girl, a teenage girl, 17 maybe, who knows, who works at this, it's not a summer camp, but she does work there during the summer, so I always get jumbled. It's a horror simulation, essentially. It's a place where people go for the night, just one night, and she and the rest of the staff put on a production where they take you through the woods and through the campgrounds to experience a horror story. They have a murderer, a pretend murderer who tries to kill them, and then they all try to get out alive. People die, not for realsies. People are captured and then treated as dead in the game. They have a lot of props, like prop blood and body parts and stuff. They put on a whole production, and there's so much that I enjoyed about this book, and so much of the horror and the gore elements were written so well, but then everything around the villain just felt really Scooby-Doo to me. I said it in the vlog, like a guy with a monster mask chasing them down the hallway is how it felt. It just felt very Scooby-Doo around the villain. Now, around the buildup of there's someone else here, there's someone picking us off, what's going on, all that was excellent. But that part of it was not so excellent for me, and then I despised the epilogue. So this could have been great. It would have been great if the villain would have worked better for me, and if the epilogue was not written, but sure, it was good. Equal Rites was also chef's kiss. I loved Terry Pratchett's writing. His absurdity mixed with humor, mixed with let's have a discussion about some things is just, I love the way he does it. Equal Rites is specifically about a baby girl who a warlock thought was going to be a boy, and so he passed on his warlock magic to this boy, and then afterwards realized, whoops, I broke our system. Because girls are witches and boys are warlocks. That's how we do things here. So she grows up with warlock's magic, but it doesn't fit into the world, and they try to teach her to be a witch even though she has warlock magic. And it was just really, I just really enjoyed this book. It had the humor, it had the world, it had the great characters, it had the discussion points. It was very good. Next up is Bonehunters. This is a new favorite. Now, I started this book last month and then finished it this month. It was huge, so I read half and half, just to be clear on how much I actually read this month. But anyway, the Bonehunters is right up there with some of my new favorites. The Malazan series in general, these are some of my favorite books that I have been reading lately. And the last two books, Midnight Tides and the Bonehunters, have been some of my top books of the series. They've just been excellent. The Will of the Many I'm gonna put in great. This is the same author that wrote Shadow of What Was Lost, which didn't really work for me. I read the first book, I thought it was good, not great. I didn't continue on with it. Everybody else loved it and loved the whole trilogy. Then we have The Will of the Many, which I enjoyed much more. I think that it was mysterious and confusing, but in a really good way. I never knew in what direction it was going to go in. I could tell you that it's a magical school. I forgot to give you a basic plot summary. Our protagonist is a prince of a conquered kingdom, and now he's going undercover in this school, saying that he's going to submit to the system, but in fact he has other plans. Really well done school setting, really well done character work, really great mysteries. I enjoyed a lot about it, but once again, I don't seem to be loving this as much as everyone else. Even though I enjoyed it quite a bit, it's like everybody's favorite book of the year right now, or one of their favorite books of the year, and I'm not quite there. But I did enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to book 2. Okay, The Wall of Storms, another new favorite. Oh my goodness, I loved this book, actually. Yeah, I might. Yeah, I think it's even above the Bonehunters. That gives me a little bit of anxiety to try to rank these two because I loved both of them so much, but I think that might be honest. This is the sequel to The Grace of Kings, the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty series, another series that is rapidly becoming a favorite for me. The improvement in Ken Liu as a writer, or rather as a long-form storyteller, is astonishing to me. The character work, the way he has changed my perspective on so many things, the incredible action, the emotions I experienced, how close he got to me, that he got me to these characters and what they went through. Oh my goodness. I was blown away by this book. Yeah, I'm right. This was my favorite book of the month. This series is rapidly becoming a new favorite. I adored this book. Dragon Ball! Okay, so I read through volume 11 this month, and I've had a wonderful time. This would be in Chef's Kiss, but there are some glaring things that I don't like about this series, so it will go in great for that reason. But I've had a wonderful time reading through it. The humor is goofy and nonsensical and dumb, and I love stupid humor, and I had so much fun. I have had so much fun reading through this, and will continue, I'm sure. Flowers for Algernon. Wow, that's a challenging one to put in a tier list, isn't it? It's a horrible yet excellent read. It's very, very challenging to read. This is a classic sci-fi following a character who is born with learning disabilities, and he is treated terribly by those around him because he's different and he views the world differently. And there's this experiment that they bring him into where they attempt to raise his IQ, and it's successful. However, his emotional intelligence doesn't grow at the same rapid pace, which causes a lot of difficulties for him. And on top of that, a lot of people view him as newly human, as if his humanity didn't count before this experiment happened. And so he does a lot of advocating for himself. And it's an incredibly challenging read. It's such an emotional story to see what this man goes through, Charlie goes through in his childhood and in his adulthood, and to see the progression of his experience through life from the beginning of the story to the end. It is an incredibly challenging read. I know I already said that, but I think that that's the best way to describe this book. But I do definitely recommend it. I feel like Chef's Kiss is a weird thing to call this book, but it is an excellently written book. I am gonna put it up there. That feels right. Hollow Kingdom feels like it should go on Poo on You because there's so much potty humor in this book that it feels right to put it in that tier, but I won't because I didn't hate it, but I also didn't really love it. I'm putting it here. It definitely was my least favorite read of the month. A lot of people love it, just to be clear. A lot of people love this book, so I don't want to discourage you from reading it. But this is a post-apocalyptic book. Something wrong has happened to all the humans, and now the animals, we're reading everything from the animals' perspective, most specifically from a crow's perspective is our main perspective. And the crow is on his way. He's trying to figure out what happened to the humans and try to figure out how to solve this problem and get his human Jim back. But we get to see a couple different perspectives throughout the book, and those side perspectives that just get one, maybe two chapter, those were my favorite parts of the book because we weren't with the crow and the crow was not my favorite. But there's a lot of things that really didn't work for me with this book. The humor was more of a miss than a hit. The plot, I think, did a lot of side tangenting, and thematically, sometimes it was a hit, sometimes it was a miss. So I don't know. It just wasn't the book for me, but I really don't want to discourage anyone from reading it. If you like animal perspectives, post-apocalyptic settings, it is very emotional. Like there's a lot of these animals go through a lot, so you would probably be invested in what they go through and feel a lot of things. It's a really weird book. It's a really different kind of narration style, so if you want to try something that's very different, give it a go. Didn't work for me. And then finally, I reread Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass, or just Through the Looking Glass. I reread those two short stories, I think they would be called, for a video that I'm doing, and I love these books. I think that they're amazing. I'll put it at the top of great. I love the nonsense of this world. It's a very nostalgic story for me, so there's a lot that I read and I'm like, this feels cozy, this feels comfortable for me. I had a really good time rereading it. So there you go, those are the books that I read in the month of July and how I felt about them. Again, check out the spreadsheet if you want to get further information on any of these books and all of that good stuff. I post videos every Monday and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the review channel, which is always linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.